Hey there, Alex here. Today I want to talk about the JCLE JM10. First of all, I don't have a ton of experience with DAC amps, so I don't want to call this a review. It's more like me sharing some of my thoughts on the product. So let's dive right in. The JM10 comes in a cheap and generic packaging. I went for the bundle with all the cables so I can use it with all my devices. It is pretty small and compact, it has a nice metal housing, and the USB-C port feels tight and secure. They're using a Cirrus Logic CS43131 DAC with a Savitech SA9302 USB audio bridging chipset, and they support higher sample rates and bit depth. Personally, I decided to go for something with a Cirrus Logic DAC because based on my very limited experience, I think they have the best chance of giving me the type of output that I'm looking for. I've tried a few M5 and a few Vivo smartphones with AKM DACs, I've tried a few LG devices with ESS DACs, and I've tried dongles with Realtek and Conexon DACs as well. But the DAC that I ended up liking the most is actually the Apple USB-C dongle, which as far as I know is using a Cirrus Logic DAC. I find that they have a neutral, clean and clear output with almost no coloration to the sound, which is something that I prefer. I did consider the Tempotec Sonata HD Pro, which is probably a safer option, but it's pricier if I want all the cable options, and I don't really want to deal with a micro USB port. Another option is an unknown brand around the same price but with less cable options, so I decided to just go with a company I'm more familiar with. So how do I find the JM10? Well, it's sort of a mixed bag for me. When it comes to using it with my Mac, I do find that the output seems to be mostly neutral and clean. Compared to the Apple dongle, it has maybe just a tiny bit more upper mids, and I think it seems to have slightly better details, separation and soundstage. When connected to higher impedance earphones, it does output more power as well. However, it has some quirks. First of all, it only activates when you insert a pair of earphones, which is usually good for power saving. However, I'm not sure if it's an issue with my Mac or the dongle, but when it activates, it goes straight to max volume. So you gotta be really careful that nothing is playing before you plug it in. The other thing is that the power output is adaptive and dependent on the impedance of the earphones. This is usually fine for most earphones and probably helps to prevent hissing from more sensitive earphones. However, if you have something that is low impedance but sounds better with more power, like the Touchgym Tanya, then it actually becomes a bit of an issue. As far as I know, the Apple USB-C dongle has a fixed output, so when using lower impedance gear, I think it's actually putting out more power compared to the JM10. I actually have to use a higher volume on the JM10 to get the same volume output as the Apple dongle, and on something like the Tanya, it just doesn't sound as good. For Android devices, it performs similarly, just that there is no need to worry about the max volume issue, so I actually think it works best with Android devices. I like the more neutral output compared to the slightly warmer LG V50, and it seems to drive higher impedance gear a bit better as well. The best part is, I can use this with any Android device I want, instead of being tied down to LG's software and hardware. When it comes to iPhones, it does work pretty seamlessly, but again, because of the adaptive output, lower impedance earphones that performs better with more power still sounds a bit better with the Apple dongle. I think it's also unable to draw as much power from an iPhone compared to a computer, so that difference is actually a bit more obvious. However, with earphones that are easier to drive, I do hear some of the same improvements that I did before, but I just don't feel like it's a massive upgrade over the Apple Lightning dongle, which is 3 times cheaper. Overall, I think that the JM10 is just okay. I do like the extra power for higher impedance stuff and the better sound quality for certain earphones, but it's just not a very seamless or consistent experience. If you're only using it for Android devices, then maybe it's a pretty decent option. But if you're looking for something that can perform consistently better across devices, this might not be the best option. Thanks for watching this video, and see you guys on the next one.